All right, welcome to Ever Vigilant Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. If this is your first time listening to Ever Vigilant Podcast, thank you. I appreciate it. If you enjoy this podcast, please give me some feedback. Let me know what you think. If you've listened to this podcast before, thanks for coming back. I do appreciate it, and I could also use some feedback from you. I am trying to improve this podcast, make it better week by week, or I should say episode by episode, and I would appreciate any and all feedback to make this podcast better. If you have not yet listened to episode 10, please do so. Episode 10 is a review of the open concept. The open concept is made up of 6 planks. Open your mind, open your eyes, open your ears, open your mouth, open your heart, and open your arms. The 6 planks covered in this review are very simple to understand, but very difficult to master. That's the whole reason this podcast was started, so please check it out. So in this podcast, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to give an allegory. The whole idea and concept of this allegory came from a conversation I had with my father. We try to talk on a weekly basis and keep in touch because he is not living near me anymore. So that's been a bit of a strain on our relationship. But in the last 2 years, we've spent a lot more time talking on the phone and continuing where our relationship used to be. So as time has passed by, I've seen my father actually change quite a bit. He has really opened his mind, let's put it that way. We'll use one of the planks of the open concept, and come to a point where almost no matter what I throw at him, no matter what kind of red pill idea I toss his way, his response will pretty much always be, I don't not believe anything anymore. I can see the validity in so many different things. And to see somebody that was born in the 50s and, lived that different lifestyle, or I shouldn't say lifestyle, lived in a completely different society and different culture than we are living in today, to see him come to a point where he is starting to see where things are going and has just kind of resigned himself to things not being the way that they were before or the way that he kind of always believed they were. That's very different for my father. It's very strange for him to have come to that point in his life. He has always been very slow to make judgments on things, very slow to give a concrete opinion, always ready to give people the benefit of the doubt, and very, very slow to harshly judge anybody without just reason, and very, very fair in the way that he would look at things. So to hear him come to that point, somebody that 2 years ago, I'm not sure I would have heard the things coming out of his mouth that I hear today, as far as things in this country kind of going in the wrong direction. Well, anyway, as part of our conversation the one day, you can hear him as he talks about these things, that he's thinking about the world that's being left behind for his sons and daughters and for his grandchildren. And not that you hear a sadness in his voice, but you hear a real contemplation in what he's saying and what he's thinking. As he was kind of feeling that way, and I could tell, and there was a pause in his speaking, I kind of came up with this allegory, and I've added to it. But at that moment, what popped into my head and what I was thinking is that really there's no backing down. Things that are going to happen are going to happen. But I am going to be as ready as I possibly can, and I'm going to try to put myself in the best position that I can. And that was when I came up with this thought of hacking your way kind of through a jungle and slashing your way into this clearing and realizing that you're staring a tiger right in the eyes. And what do you do in that moment? Do you run? That's sure death, right? No. You stand your ground and you fight for what you believe in. And you may die. Hopefully you give as good as you get. But you go out swinging with what you believe in and protecting those that are with you or the things that are important to you. And that was kind of the beginning of this evolution of this allegory. So I'll tell it just as a story, and then I'll go back and kind of review what I think different parts of the story mean. Most of them you'll get, and most of them you'll catch on to right away, but I'll give a little explanation at the end, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So you have three guys, basically same income level, same age, same education, basically three friends, whether they met at college or they work together at the factory, that makes no difference. You have three men, very similar. So as these men are hacking their way through the jungle of life, they come across a man, an older man, obviously well versed in this jungle. This man, kind of a Indiana Jones style / Dos Equis man, comes up to them and he said, "This jungle isn't as peaceful as you believe. There are lions and tigers and bears." These guys look at each other, kind of shocked, kind of surprised, because it had never crossed their mind before that things weren't as peaceful and as perfect as they had seemed. The first guy, call him Ed, immediately digs a hole and sticks his head in the ground and says, "This is a conspiracy theory. There's no lions and tigers and bears. I've never seen a lion, I've never seen a tiger, and I've certainly never seen a bear in this jungle. These are conspiracy theories. Why would you make something like this up?" He stuck his head back in the ground. Well, Ted and Harry leave. And as they're walking away, leaving Ed with his head in the ground, they start to discuss this. Could it be possible? Could there be lions and tigers and bears in this peaceful jungle? This peaceful forest they're hacking their way through? Both of them agree. That's possible. As they talk about it and think about it, they go, it's likely. This habitat would seem to be able to support these beasts. Why couldn't they be here? So as they continue on in their travels, hacking their way through, these two men stop for the night to set up a little camp. They pitched their tents, and Ted says to Harry, "Maybe we should sleep in shifts. Maybe we should keep an eye out for lions and tigers and bears tonight." To which Harry replies, "We've been fine all this time. We're not going to worry about lions and tigers and bears tonight. I am exhausted. Let's get some sleep." So they sleep. They wake up the next morning. Harry makes a couple sarcastic comments about sleeping in shifts, and they move on for the day, hacking and clearing their way through life. But Ted's paying a little bit more attention, being a little bit more vigilant to what's going on. Harry, not so much. They talk about the fact that there could be lions and tigers and bears, but Harry seems pretty satisfied in just talking about it. So the second night after they meet up with this Dos Equis / Indiana Jones, Ted mentions to Harry, "You know what? Maybe we ought to spend a little time sharpening our machetes. These things could do a little bit more than hack our way through the jungle. Maybe we could use them for protection should we ever encounter one of these lions and tigers and bears." Again, Harry just laughed. "Why would we do that? Everything's been fine. We'll keep going. I'm sure we'll know if there's ever any troubles ahead." So, Ted sharpens up his machete, and Harry falls asleep. The third night, they stop Ted has another suggestion for Harry. Why don't you lighten your load a little bit? Seem to be carrying an awful lot. You got a lot of things you don't need. A lot of things are weighing you down, keeping you from doing the things that you want to do, or from putting yourself in a better place. Again, Harry just kind of laughs. But the next morning, again, loves talking about the lions and tigers and bears. So they hack their way through that day as they're sitting around the fire and talking. Ted suggests to Harry, why don't you do something to be a little bit more resilient? Why don't you buy a better pair of hiking boots or a hat to keep the sun out of your eyes? Again, Harry blows him off. So as they walk along, the weeks go by. Harry keeps adding things to his pack. Big things. Heavy things. Harry starts to slow down. Little things start to knock him off balance. Makes it very, very difficult for him to keep up with Ted, who's always running the lead and always paying close attention, hoping to see the lion, tiger, or bear before they see him, trying as hard as he can to be as vigilant as possible. And lagging way behind, further and further and further behind, is Harry, whose pack at this point is loaded, but it's weighing him down. Meanwhile, Ed pops his head up out of the hole he's dug and starts slashing his way back through life, kind of waking up a little bit, kind of starting to wonder a little bit about maybe these lions and tigers and bears. Sure enough, there's a shaking in the bush. Now Ed is scared. Maybe those guys were right. Maybe there is something to be wary of. As soon as he said those words, here comes a squirrel running out of the bush. Ed has a good laugh, says, see, there are no lions and tigers and bears. These guys are all afraid of squirrels. These guys are morons and can't tell the difference between a lion and a squirrel. And digs a hole and sticks his head right back in it. At some point, maybe weeks, days, months, years down the line, with Harry lagging further and further behind Ted, they encounter a lion. Now Ted spotted it pretty far off, but Harry freaked out and tripped and couldn't get back up again. He was buried by his burden, buried by all that he was trying to carry, all that he was trying to balance, and Harry never got back up again. Now Ted, he'd been watching for this moment. He had been trying to figure out what he would encounter, a lion, a tiger, a bear. As they went through the different terrains, he would think about and ponder whether it would be more likely to encounter one or the other. He tried to prepare his best for which one that he would encounter. So was he able to get around that lion that he encountered because he saw it far enough off and escape? Or did he go toe-to-toe with the lion? Did he win? Did he lose? I'll leave that part of the story for you to come up with. But either way, Ted saw the enemy, the predator, and had put himself in the best place that he possibly could to deal with the situation. So which guy are you? Are you Ed, who, as things are changing in this country, things are changing in this world, has just decided to say that's conspiracy theory? Or maybe just too scared, so you've just stuck your head in the sand? You're the person that's just going la 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 la. Don't tell me anything. I don't want to hear it. Are you Harry, the guy who's burdened by debt and expensive cars, boats, big house, things that in the grand scheme of things are doing very little, but holding you back and weighing you down in debt and extra responsibilities? Or are you making the effort to be like Ted, who's trying to be light on his feet, trying to be resilient, trying to think ahead, trying to evaluate the situations, trying to see trouble before you get to it, and make a plan to react the best way that you can? And there's a reason there's no end to this story about what happens to Ted. We don't know. You can prepare and could do everything right by the book, but the moral of the story is, let's be like Ted. Ted was doing his best. He was putting himself in the best situation he could, and he was trying to be more resilient and trying to get rid of the burdens that were slowing him down and making him less nimble. The world is changing, especially here in our safe zone of the United States. Things are changing, and things are changing in a hurry. Never in my lifetime did I think I would hear the words Civil War come up. But yet, it's coming up on a consistent basis on Drudge Report. They've been talking about it in many of the big newspapers around this country. It's been brought up and talked about on the news channels. I know Rush Limbaugh has talked about it. Michael Savage has talked about it. Craig Sawyer, who has been on and had television shows on Animal Planet, on the Military Channel, and on History Channel, has talked about it. One of my favorites, an old Navy SEAL, Matt Bracken, has talked about it on many occasions. You have Peter Vincent Pry, or Dr. Vincent Pry, talking about EMPs, hacking, the electric grid going down. Drudge, Zero Hedge are filled with stories about how the stock market's been manipulated, how the employment numbers are all being manipulated. Any one of these three situations would be devastating. That's why I called them the lion, the tiger, and the bear. But in reality, it can be something like a natural disaster, like what happened in Houston with Harvey. Huge disaster that will affect everybody there for years, and will probably end up affecting all of the rest of us here in this country in greater ways than we recognize and realize at this moment. How do you prepare for all of this stuff? There's lots of resources online, a lot of good people with a lot of good information. If people are interested in more information on how to prepare for these things, I could do a podcast on them, something we could work on. But I think one of the most important things right now, as hopefully you're transitioning from being the Ed, you start pulling your head out of the sand, or you start trying to transition from Harry and being loaded down and kind of understanding the threat, kind of getting the fact that there might be an issue, but not letting it change your lifestyle, not letting it change the way you plan for the future, not let it change where you spend your money. One resource, though, and even for Ted, is forwardobserver.com. The guy there who started this website, Samuel Culper, I've heard him on many podcasts. In fact, he has his own podcast. Check it out. Very, very smart guy. He was a military intelligence officer who, upon retiring from his military career, decided to do intelligence for the rest of us. In listening to his podcast and listening to interviews with him on other podcasts, this guy knows his stuff. He just has his new website up, forwardobserver.com. I would definitely recommend you check it out. There's a section on there called Watch Floor. And on Watch Floor, each day, He lists up there the top stories that he thinks are developing and could potentially have a big impact on us on a nationwide view. He does courses. If he's got a course going in your area, check it out. He's got some books. I definitely recommend. I've been listening to this guy for a couple years now. He's got a subscription service. Check this guy out. Check his information out. I think you will be better for it. You do nothing but put yourself in a better position to respond to any given situation if you are not only prepared for it, but you can see it coming. Are we going to see everything coming? Are we going to get them all right? Are we going to, in the end, is that going to make a difference? It will make a difference in this. We did our best. And at the end of the day, what more can we do? Things are changing. They say in Game of Thrones, winter is coming. And while everybody's bickering and jockeying for position, maybe that ain't going to mean anything in a couple days, a couple weeks, a year from now, 2 years from now. Maybe winter is truly coming. So like I say, hit your knees. Say a prayer for this country. Say a prayer for those in leadership. Say a prayer for your family. And ask for wisdom. That if there's something coming your way, you will see it. And you will be able to do your best and put your family in the best position to ride things out. In saying that, I do want to remind you guys of 1 Peter 5:8, which really goes hand in hand with the story I told tonight. Again, 1 Peter 5:8 out of the Bible. This is King James Version. And it says, "Be sober and be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour." And, while we got our heads in the Bible, let's check out one more verse here. This is in the book Hosea 4:6. It says, "My people are destroyed from lack of knowledge, because you have rejected knowledge." If you enjoyed this podcast, or if you hated this podcast but maybe liked one in the past, leave me some feedback on wherever you download your podcast. I would really appreciate it. If you have some feedback directly for me, something that I can change, something that you'd like to hear about, a topic, an idea, I would love to hear from you. You can hit me up on Twitter and Instagram. My handle is TheEverVigilant. Or you can drop me an email at evervigilantpodcast@gmail.com. Either way, I would appreciate hearing from you. It's always interesting. I heard from somebody in Finland about a podcast I did a couple episodes back. It was podcast number 16, Blurring the Line Between Good and Evil, where I talked about what the American College of Pediatricians had to say about transgender children and how it contradicts what the mainstream media is telling you. If you're listening to this podcast, thank you. Again, guys, remember, faith, family, and freedom